Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weeks.
I'm one of the other hosts, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai. It's all three of us.
Yeah, the full set today.
The play set.
The play set, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, we're 3/4 of a play set. We're down one.
Yeah.
It's a baker's play set.
There you go.
No.
Shucks.
Well, everybody's here today because we are doing another fantasy draft.
Oh, yeah.
Not a regular draft. We're fantasy drafting Magic cards. We'll explain what we're doing in a second. If you missed the last couple of drafts that we did, we drafted equipment. We've also drafted utility lands. Check out those episodes as well. This time we let our patrons vote on what we would be drafting as a table, and we are drafting the best Planeswalkers in Commander. It's going to be a neat episode, but before we get into it,
let's talk about our sponsors. The first up is cardkingdom.com/command. If you're looking to buy Magic cards, single sealed product, and more pre-orders, or maybe just some Planeswalkers, go on over to cardkingdom.com/command. They have a huge inventory that you can select from. They have tons of cards in the condition you're looking for, from the set you're looking for, and they also have an incredible buy list if you're looking to trade in cards for value from the store or just sell your cards straight up. So, cardkingdom.com/command is the place that we trust to get our cards to us. They ship it all in one easy, convenient package, so you can get all the cards you want at the exact same time, sleeve them up, put them into a deck, and begin playing with it immediately. So, I know there are a lot of sets this year that I am looking forward to, Bloomburrow especially. Thunder Junction looks pretty cool. I'm going to pre-order my cards from cardkingdom.com/command, and you can as well, and support the show while doing so. Once again, that link is cardkingdom.com/command.
you can also support the show by using a second affiliate link over at ultrapro.com/command. ULTRAPRO has a huge selection of all of your favorite Magic accessories because they have the licensing to use the official Magic art. We love Magic art. We're here, Magic players. You can get it even bigger on playmats and sleeves, deck boxes, even binders. They've been releasing binders for each set, and they're like leather-bound binder. They're really sweet. So if you buy a lot of product per set, you can get the binder in the matching set and have a really cool bookshelf of all of your singles that are really easy to use. Plus, you know that your cards are always safe and organized with ULTRAPRO products. We trust all of our decks here to ULTRAPRO because they have the highest quality stuff. They know they're going to keep them safe. ULTRAPRO will take care of you and your cards, and you can do so while taking care of the Command Zone by using our affiliate link at ultrapro.com/command.
Love it.
And of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/command-zone. Patrons get all kinds of cool perks, like watching extra turns and game nights earlier than the general public. All three of us and many of our team are also often on our Discord. You can interact with us there. At certain tier levels, you get access to exclusive content that's not available on our regular YouTube channel. So if you can't get enough of us, well, you can get more of us at patreon.com/command-zone.
Plus, we ask our patrons for polls like this.
Yep.
So if you want to contribute to the upcoming draft, you can vote as a patron.
Yeah, and we've had patrons pick decks for upcoming gameplay episodes. So we definitely interact with our patrons a lot. So again, if you want to join that. Also, there's one final cool perk, which is we shout out one lucky patron every single episode. And this episode is dedicated to
William Segletz.
Segletz sounds
This
sweet.
is
The third.
Segletz. It sounds like a Greek philosopher.
Yeah, I know. I like that one.
Yeah.
William Segletz.
William, I apologize. We did our best here.
I do not apologize. I say you should thank us for we did an awesome job.
Yeah.
Well, and also thank you, William, for the support. And
Yes,
like Rachel said, you rock.
Yeah. You rock.
Yeah, don't thank us. We're thanking you.
That's the whole thing.
All right, let's get into this drafting the best Planeswalkers. I want to say from the start, I found this to be way harder than the other two. We did
Equipment and utility lands.
Yeah. And I was like, those weren't, I thought about them for a couple of hours and, tootled around online. But this took way longer, and I'm way less sure of my depth chart.
It's interesting because Planeswalkers can get so narrow.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Planeswalkers that we're picking or we're looking at can be really, really powerful, but aren't necessarily good in a wide variety of strategies, which is kind of what we talked about when we're doing these draft episodes. So all of us come into this episode with a list of the aforementioned category, this time Planeswalkers. They're in some kind of draft order, and we all have sort of different strategies, whether we're looking for stuff that can go in a lot of decks or if we're just looking for really high power level type stuff. So all of us have different lists and different strategies, and we're all going to try and end up with the best stable of Planeswalkers that we can. So we'll pick 5, and at the end we'll have 5 Planeswalkers that we're hoping will be powerful in Commander.
And we've said this in the past, but we're drafting as if these are the only 5 Planeswalkers we're going to have in our collection for the rest of our lives.
They're real sticks.
So that's how you sort of in your mind have to decide, like, what do I want to take over what? You know, do I want to have this? Do I want to make sure I have this card in my collection for the rest of my life and risk not getting the other ones?
Yep.
Every pick you make. So, I don't feel good about my picks. I was like, we do a snake draft. So whoever picks first, they go, then the second person goes, then the third person goes, then the third person goes again. And then the person who went second goes, and then the person who went first gets 6th. And I was like, of all the drafts to go first,
this is definitely the
it's a
roughest.
weird
one.
this is not the one I wanted because I don't feel like confident. It's not like I know I want this.
Right,
Windmill Slam,
Yeah.
a strip mine or whatever.
I don't know how you two feel, and this might be a quick discussion before we start, is like, I don't play a lot of Planeswalkers. Like, I don't like Planeswalkers that much in the format, but I also just don't like the design of how Planeswalkers work in the game very much.
Of all of these cards that we're listing today, I maybe play 2 of them in decks.
Yeah, how many decks do you have, Jimmy?
I have 12 or so now.
How many of those 12 do you think have at least one Planeswalker in them?
2.
Yeah.
Rachel, how many
2
decks
or
do you
3
have?
maybe, yeah.
So I have like 20 decks.
How many of those decks do you think have a Planeswalker in them?
I was thinking about it, and it's close to half. And usually
Around 10?
it's like 10-ish.
Okay, and then I have about 25 decks, and I'm going to estimate 5 to 6 of them have a Planeswalker in it. So that means about half your decks have one, about a little less than 25% of mine have one, and Jimmy's is 1/6.
Yeah, or maybe more. I just forget. It's like 20, but it's like slightly bigger than 1/6 maybe. Maybe.
If it was 3, then you're at the same as me. It's 25%.
It's right around there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a complicated pick because Planeswalkers operate at a very strange place in Commander, right? When they come down, I think we've all experienced this, that the whole table goes, kill it!
Yeah.
Kill it with fire!
Yeah.
Regardless of how
Because they
powerful
can. You
it
can't attack an enchantment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It gives them a free way to get rid of it in Commander. And it's a lot more difficult to defend a Planeswalker in Commander than it is in 1v1 when you only have to defend off, a couple of creatures. Now suddenly you have to keep in mind 6.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's the number of players, right? If I play a Planeswalker in Modern, I have to defend it from the 1 player I'm playing. If I play it in Commander, I have to defend it from the 3 players I'm playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good chance it's not coming back to you by your turn rotation. And there's all sorts of different ways that you're going to get attacked. It's not just on the ground. Maybe someone will do something that just direct damage, or someone will make you sacrifice a creature. It's like
Or they'll work together. I'll remove that thing and then you attack it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is,
That happens all the time, though.
all the time. And then they're like, it's free. We got to take it out.
Yeah.
You're just like, you're spending resources to get rid of it. Is it worth those resources? It's interesting because I like Planeswalkers. I have 2 Commander decks that have Planeswalkers as commanders. I have Dihada and Lord Windgrace.
Oh, okay, right.
And they're obviously uniquely powerful because they're in the command zone. But I was trying to think of why I like those. And Dihada, I think, is because it has a really, really powerful minus ability. So when you cast Dihada, it's like sort of a 4-mana sorcery with upside.
Yeah, and it just gets you instant value.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Planeswalkers are that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason why Planeswalkers are great in Commander. And you sort of treat them as a sorcery where it's like, if it sticks around, great.
If it doesn't, I got a spell and I got value off. Yeah.
That's kind of how I came down to, because doing this exercise causes you to think about, like, well, what do I like and what do I want? And how do I make these choices? And yeah, that's where I landed too, is like, I need to be satisfied if I just assumed I was not going to untap with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What ability do I get? And am I satisfied in that scenario? And then I just have the upside of if it did survive.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I get any additional value past that is probably gravy.
Windgrace is a little different from Dihada. Its minus is very powerful, but its plus is very powerful.
Right.
And then it's like, it goes from 5 to 7, I think. So it's very, very difficult to kill when you can get it down early.
Well, let me ask you, because in the draft, I was only considering these in the 99 of my decks. I was not considering them as commanders.
So that's what I'm talking about. Today we're just talking about in the 99, but I was thinking in generally with Planeswalkers, it's like, why do I like Windgrace? And I do think it's like Windgrace has a powerful plus, it has a powerful minus, but also it's very difficult to kill if you plus it.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get out early because it's in green.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous though, I will say, because I think being second is actually the best, and being third is also really good. But being first, like Josh said, it's not great.
Yeah,
No, because I don't feel that strongly. So I feel like, whatever I get second or third, I'd be just as happy with as what I get first. But then I don't get to go until sixth.
Some technicalities before we begin, though. We did include everything that has a Planeswalker on its backside as well. So, for instance, there's the new invasion of New Phyrexia that turns into the Teferi. There is the Flipwalkers. There's like Valky, Tybalt, God of Lies. So there are those included as well. They do count as Planeswalkers.
I did want to mention one more thing before we get into the draft, because I think like there's Planeswalkers that act as sorceries that have upside. There's Planeswalkers that are like difficult to kill, which is nice. But then there's also Planeswalkers that have really powerful static abilities.
Yeah, and this is
that
more
are closer
recent.
Are
like
closer
enchantments.
to enchantments.
Yeah.
Where they're enchantments that sort of have like vanishing. And I think those are going to come up a lot as well, because they're on all of our lists.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Those are kind of the things that we look for in a Planeswalker, and it's going to be interesting to see which ones go first.
I will also say that there are Planeswalkers that don't actually make the table go, we need to kill it immediately. And those are also on all of our lists, because sometimes they come down and you go, it's as though they had a creature that did a thing. They're limited in their abilities.
Yeah, ones that aren't so threatening that people do team up to kill it.
Yeah.
Although that line's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah. But there's definitely one card I know that is on all of our lists, because we all discussed it in the office, that definitely is just, when it comes down, I look at it and go, I'd rather do something else than try and waste resources to kill this thing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's get into the draft. I'm curious to see what's going first. I'm sure Josh is too.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's how did you decide randomly?
The reason that the draft order is this way, Josh will be going first, Jimmy second, I'm going third. I put our three names into a very real website called random.org, and random.org decided that Josh is going first.
Thanks, random.org.
Random.org, thank
My
you.
luck continues to hold. I see that.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's the Lords of Chaos website.
right.
It's random.org.
So with the first pick in the 2024 Planeswalker draft here at the Command Zone, Josh Lee Quais selects. I'm going to pause real quick here to say, of course, I'm going to do the thing that subverts the spirit of the whole thing, because as you all know out there, I like to do it, and pick Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Yeah.
No.
Picking.
That was my first pick.
Was it?
Yeah.
A creature
Right here.
going first on the Planeswalker draft.
Hey, we're doing a Planeswalker draft, and Josh
Josh
shows a
picks
creature.
a blue creature.
Josh chooses the
course,
single
hilarious.
creature. Yeah.
I double checked. I sent the email. We're counting Planeswalkers that are
No.
MDFTs and on the transform.
Yeah.
I think we absolutely are. I mean, and I think that's a lot of the power of JVP, right?
Oh,
he comes down and he's a looter, but like he flips into a Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that fear we just talked about.
Yeah.
When I play it, I'm not worried that I
Yeah.
won't untap with it because somebody will attack it. They might remove it, but it's going to cost them a card somehow.
Yeah.
I literally yesterday when Rachel was downstairs, I went, everyone's picking Jace Vryn's Prodigies first, right? And she went, I don't know. I'm like, I'm definitely picking it first if I can.
That's funny. Jimmy and I didn't talk about this at all. We
No.
both had it first.
Yeah.
It's because we podcasted together
Without
for
even
8 years.
thinking, I was like, best Planeswalkers, instantly the one that just can be played in any blue deck as just a looter.
Like that card is just good, right? Like
Yeah.
forget the fact that it is a Planeswalker on the back. Just a card that says tap, 2 mana, has any amount of power and toughness, tap, draw a card, discard a card. That's just a card you'll never be embarrassed to play it. It's not amazing.
Yeah.
But what makes Jace Vryn's Prodigy actually kind of amazing is the fact that, and then at a certain point it says, flip this over and then choose tutor for something in your graveyard and cast it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
The amount of times I have forgotten that a JVP can flip, and it flips, turns into a Planeswalker, and then flashes back a board wipe, and you're like, no!
Yeah,
Yeah.
dang it.
So the value you get off of this is you activate it, let's say 2 to 3 times, and then the card you've discarded, you get back. So it's not even like you lose that card. So you're totally okay with it flipping, casting that card, and him dying. As a Planeswalker. That is insane value for a single Planeswalker, I think.
And you get control of when it flips, right? Because you do not have to tap it once you have more than 5 or more cards in there. So you just wait. You're just like, cool, I don't want to flip it yet because it's dangerous out there.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'll just wait if somebody kills it, they kill it. I've already looted 3 or 4 times, so I got my value.
Yeah.
And And if God forbid you got like an extra turn spell or something even crazy in there, you flip. Yeah, when you flip it over and you're like, cool, I'm gonna, whatever extra turn spell or like you said, board wipe, get that austere command back or something. It's brutal. Yeah, especially if your deck's getting stuff in the graveyard in other ways.
I will say, GVP I think is really unique because a lot of I think it's the only good instant and sorcery planeswalker in Commander.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Because those decks are not good at defending themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd say Ral. Because he forks.
Sure.
Ral Zarek will give you a little bit of ability, like utility.
Forking an extra turn spell is also good. Yeah.
It's also really powerful. But the tough thing about it is like...
Girls just play fork.
Like Will and Rowan is a really powerful Magic card, but it's not very good in Commander because if you're playing a deck that cares about instants and sorceries, you can't defend a planeswalker.
Yeah.
Your enchantment's
That's something else that we should have talked about.
That's
the ability to defend itself.
That's interesting, and I bet it would play into why we view planeswalkers differently because Rachel is way more of a like have a lot of creatures board presence player than either of us are, definitely than I am. So planeswalkers,
Jimmy's creature's always tapped.
That's true. He's attacking. Yeah,
they're coming in.
Yeah, Rachel's always like off the side, like don't look at me, and also I have all the stuff it's going to be a pain in the butt to get to, and so that probably goes into our evaluation, which is the great thing about Magic, I think, in general, is like the evaluation of cards actually sort of fluctuates correctly based on your play style as well and what you like to do. Anyway, Jace Vryn's Prodigy, I want to make a funny note here because we've been around this long. When Magic Origins came out and these Planeswalkers came out, everybody, including us, thought this card was horrible. It was like bad, unplayable. And then it like took over Standard, and we're like, whatever, Standard's still bad in Commander. And then we're
like,
it number 1 in our draft.
Just number 1.
Yep.
Cards are hard to evaluate.
It's sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you just don't know.
What do I do now?
I don't know, Jimmy. You are up next.
Wait, don't you have a depth chart that's
I do have a whole list.
Jimmy
just had one Planeswalker.
Well, here's the thing, right? Now that I know, because if Josh going first changes it, me going second changes the way that I look at it. Because now I'm...
you're like an NFL team that needed a quarterback and they took your quarterback?
Yeah. Now part of my draft estimation is like, okay, do I go... Because I know I'm going to get 2 picks in front of me from Rachel. So like I have to figure out where I actually... The depth chart changes a little bit.
Funny.
Yeah, it's really funny. Okay.
I know what you're picking.
Yeah. It's going to be one or the other. I think I'm going to go with a Planeswalker that I have the most copies of because I was like, this is so good, I'm going to buy a lot. I can go into any deck.
It's not what I thought. Yeah. But now I know what it is.
Yeah, it is Eugene the Spirit Dragon.
Big Ugin.
8 mana Ugin. Comes down, instantly resets the board, which is why it's so powerful with 7 loyalty. The -X, exile each permanent with converted mana cost X or less. That's 1 or more colors. That is so good. It's now 8 mana, I think, is the only downside here. But when this comes down, it protects itself by just getting rid of anything that could attack it, really.
I love running Ugin in mono green decks. Like this is I think we think of Ugin kind of as outdated, but like if you can slam it in a mono green deck with a high curve, this card it's the best board wipe green has access to.
Yeah.
It was my number 1 pick.
Yes, I stole it.
Yeah.
I had it way down. 8.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Just it's 8 mana. I do play it.
Yeah.
And I think it's very powerful. And the board wipe is the reason that you play it because you almost can't lose. You bring it down, you're -6, and then it's still there.
It's still there.
And they almost certainly can't get to it unless they have haste or... People often have a lightning reader or food boost, though, and they do manage to get at it, but still.
Yeah.
And it can be a win con in a lot of decks, too.
Yeah.
So...
Or you could just hold back your own colorless creature or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So...
This is definitely one of the sorcery planeswalkers.
Yes.
Where like if Ugin survives, great, and you get to lightning bolt something else.
I just love that you can choose what the X is.
Oh yeah.
So you can even keep your own stuff, right? You can time it in a way and play around it. Knowing it's in your hand, you can play your game in a certain way that gets maximum value out of it as well. And I like that.
That's probably why it's good in mono green, right? Because you're like, oh, well, I kill everybody's stuff at 3. And I keep 3 or 4 things. Yeah. Or maybe it only kills 2 of my 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I get rid of my dorks, but I keep my big board presence.
Yeah.
Ugin gone. Sad. I love that he's still up there, though.
Me too.
Ugin, the Spirit Dragon.
I do love Ugin.
Where did you have Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Rachel? We didn't hear.
I didn't have it on my list.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow.
Rachel never plays
It's not, I don't really play JVP. I've just never owned a copy. And it's great. But I just don't think of it when I'm adding stuff
It's
to
funny.
decks.
I don't
know.
actually own a copy either, but it
Really?
is
Yeah.
still my number one pick. Yeah, because
Yeah.
when it came out, we were like, this is garbage. And then it shot up to like $60 or something. I was like, well, I'm never buying this card
Yeah.
now. And it just kind of went down and kind of petered. And I was like, well, I didn't need it before. I don't need it now. I'll just play Merfolk, you know?
Just play
That's funny.
Merfolk
I'd say
now.
of like
Yeah.
I think I said I had 5 or 6 decks with Planeswalkers out of my 25, and I bet 3 of those decks have a James.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Some have a couple Planeswalkers, right? But
Yeah. That's hilarious.
All
Okay.
right, my pick 1 is gone, but
Who's it
Well,
gonna
we know
be?
your pick 2 is still there because
my pick 2 is still there because JVP was not on my
Who's it
list.
gonna
And I
be?
think this may be too high, but I want to take it, I think. I'm going to take Liliana Dreadhorde General.
Ooh, so static ability has now made an entry into the list here because Liliana's
Yeah.
static ability, and this was all the Planeswalkers in this set had this, right? War of the Spark.
Yep.
Yeah, it's static abilities.
So
yeah.
it's whenever creature you control dies, draw a card, which is pretty good by itself
It's
as
really
a 6
good.
mana card.
It's so Liliana is interesting because I also sort of think like she is an enchantment, but I also sort of think of her as a sorcery. Like Liliana is a 6 mana sorcery that says each player sacrifices 2 creatures and you draw 2 cards.
yeah, that's pretty good.
And then on top of that, if it survives, which it often does because everybody just hacked 2 creatures.
Yeah.
You have this insanely busted Planeswalker in play. And it's usually in decks that can sacrifice more creatures, obviously.
Yeah. And the +1 of just making a 2/2 means it does have a way to
Yeah.
defend
that's
itself.
what you do after you do the other thing, and
Yeah.
she's still alive.
Yeah.
It's I think like it's one of the few planeswalkers that when it comes down, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
That
you.
wrecks me.
Yep.
So I like Lily a lot. I think that static ability goes a long way, but it's the minus that puts her in the top for me.
I mean, there's a lot of decks that just can't beat that play.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of decks I play don't have a lot of creatures.
Oh,
you come down, you get their commander
just
with
game
it.
over.
If it's
Yeah.
Voltron or something, and they're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, oh. So let me get this straight. I had to sack my most important piece, so my deck's not doing anything. You did that, drew 2 cards, and still have that Planeswalker, which if I don't get at it real soon, is going to do that thing again.
Yeah.
And I have to redeploy, and then
Yeah. And in the
give you more
meantime-
time to rebuild. Makes it harder to get at. And then once I finally can maybe get at her, you just minus again. Yeah.
Yeah.
That card's brutal.
It
Brutal.
creates a really serious situation where you're like, we have to do something right now.
Yep. Feel that.
The amount of times that I've seen people play Lily, tick her up, and then pass is like, no, that is
No,
not
no.
what you're supposed to do with this commander.
Yeah.
You play, like, you slam the minus when she comes
It's like
down.
95% of the time.
Otherwise,
again,
it's a
you're
6
playing-
mana 2/2 and
Yeah.
she's dead. They
Yeah.
have to kill her.
Yeah. And again, you are planning your game plan around landing at the right time, waiting for people to build in just a way that it will optimally wreck them. So it's similar to Ugin in that you get a lot of power in choosing when to play the Planeswalker instead of just doing it on curve.
Jimmy, where did you have Liliana Dreadhorde General on
She
your list?
was about 4 or 5, depending.
I had her at 9.
Yeah.
So that's cool. You guys picked as your 2 and 3 my 8 and 9.
There you go.
No?
Which I said I was not confident about my list at all. Now I feel less confident than I did at the beginning.
Well, I'm excited to hear Rachel's
Yeah,
second
Rachel gets
pick
to go
here.
again.
I
now.
know. My second pick here is interesting because there's
Round
one that
2.
there's one that I think is probably more powerful, but I don't know if I'd ever put this card in a deck.
Oh, yeah. I definitely have some that are on my list, but I'm
yeah,
like, I don't
yeah.
really play it, but
Yeah.
it's good.
Like,
Yeah.
so I think I'm gonna leave it to one of y'all and stay on brand. I'm picking big ol' Elspeth.
Yeah.
Ah,
Elspeth Sun's
there you
champion.
go. Yeah, that would be my next pick.
That was my
You
number
picked
2.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that Elspeth is one of the best planeswalkers in Commander, and it's for the same reason that Ugin's good, for the same reason that Liliana's good. It's that minus that's a board wipe that leaves a planeswalker behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
The difference, I think, between Elspeth and Lily is when Elspeth ticks up, you're like, we're never
3/1/1s.
touching that planeswalker. Like if
3/1/1s.
you're like, okay, well, there's no hope of dealing any damage to
2
that
Elspeth
planeswalker.
+1s is like, that's it.
Yeah.
You're never getting through.
Yeah.
And she board wiped probably when she came down, so you weren't getting through. And then if you don't have haste or something in that one moment, that was your one shot.
I found that I've very often played Elspeth and into situations where there's nothing for her to board wipe.
Yeah, and you just go, okay, cool,
okay, 3/1/1s.
That
means
one
the
I
board's
do
not
think
threatening enough.
it is right to, sometimes it is right to tick it
Yeah.
out.
Right, because unlike Liliana, it's too much stuff to really get through, and she's at a high enough loyalty after
Yeah.
you do it that like
takes up to
maybe they
5.
get through and hit her for 2, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this sort of does open up a little bit of my style where it's like lately I have been playing a lot of Planeswalkers as board wipes.
Yeah.
Right. It gives you, it's almost a one-sided board wipe without having quite the mana cost of a one-sided board wipe. Where 6 is a lot, but like it leaves behind a permanent.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can palette 6 mana, I wiped the board, and if it dies, we play austere commands and things like that. And again, like, it's not what we want to happen in this scenario, but you're okay with that being 6 mana, like, I uptick it, I sacrifice a permanent, draw a card, make a treasure, or something like that, and then it dies is bad. Like, that, I can't, I wouldn't play that card. But 6 mana, wipe the board at its worst. And all the board wipe commanders are kind of gone now. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Liliana,
this is power 4 or greater, so it is a little limited. I found that games are getting more and more with like small, evasive, deadly creatures. So that side of it is a little bit worse now, but it doesn't matter because then you just make 3/1/1s and you can just block them.
Yeah, if you're worried about little stuff, you make the 1/1s. If you're worried about big stuff, you wipe the board.
Yeah.
It's also such a clock. Like you tick this up to 5 and they're like, oh no. And then you take it up to 6 and you're like, well, we can't touch it. And then once you get it to 7, the game's over.
Yeah,
like
7 and then activate,
it does require, it requires answering.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm going to play a Planeswalker that makes the table go, I want it to warrant that reaction.
I also like if you play a Planeswalker and it makes people have to make bad decisions to try and get rid of it. Because that also puts you ahead, right?
Planeswalkers are such a good tool to be like, look over here.
Yeah.
They're going to have to use
Be
resources.
busy.
That's what I want, too. Like, I don't want you to just be able to attack. It costs you kind of nothing.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
Jimmy, where'd you have Elspeth?
She would have been my next pick. So there'd have been 2 or 3 for me.
Would you still have picked her since you got Ugin?
I think so.
Or are they similar enough?
Because I do love Elspeth quite a lot. But I think Ugin, right? I chose Ugin because of the colorless side of it, because it can play in any deck, and that is similar to like Jace's any blue deck can do it. I think Elspeth is any white deck as well, but...
Yeah, it's interesting because I had in my mind, like, I have Elspeth at number 2, and if I don't get her, then Ugin's next.
Yeah.
She feels that I need a quarterback slot, and then Liliana's next. All gone now. Thanks a lot.
All gone now.
But we had the same philosophy for the most part. I feel better about all my picks now based on this.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy, your pick 2.
All right, so I am diving deep into multiple colors now because this is a card, again, that I play in any deck that can play it for the most part. It is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Dak Baden. So if this just reads 3 mana, steal a powerful artifact, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
This can also read 3 mana, get me out of a tough situation, draw 2, discard 2. So both his +1 and his -2 to me are valuable enough to justify the 3 mana slot. It is 1 blue and a red. You never think about the ultimate, but that to me is good enough, and also just it's got me out of so many binds because you're mana screwed. Steal a Soul Ring, steal a larger crazy artifact creature, whatever it is, or I need to draw more cards. You can draw a discard. So I think both of those sides, because if I'm playing, if I'm flashing back, what's it called, for 2 and a red to draw 2, discard 2 anyway, I'm happy to play Dak Faden to do that. And sometimes he just sticks around too.
Yeah, Dak was next for me.
Many games I've played Dak, -2, stolen something. Everyone goes, he's at 1 loyalty. Jimmy can't steal something else with it. I don't care if he has a draw outlet. I'm not going to attack Dak.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, I win.
Free loot?
I win. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if, like, the floor scenario is kind of like play it, steal a Soul Ring or something, the best artifact on the table, and then it dies.
Spear or something like that.
Yeah, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
With the upside of like, but then it's maybe still around, and now I'm just faithless looting.
Every turn.
Yeah, and that's really good, right? Because that is a card we play. I know it does have flashback, but yeah. I had Dak at 12.
Wow. Because it was 2 colors? Why?
I don't know. I told you I didn't feel good about my list.
That's a
As
lot
you
of
talk
choice
about
you
it,
get
I'm like, maybe I should have had him higher, but I just didn't.
Yeah. Well,
I do love Dak. I have a particular affinity for him as well. I would say between the 3 Planeswalkers I play most in my decks are Dak, Elspeth, and Ugin.
I don't play a lot of steal effects, but I recognize they are powerful,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't tend to. I mean, I like the card, but maybe
my
I should
jam.
have had it next. I don't know.
well, we're going to find out what's next on your list here.
Yeah, okay, so my pick, which what are we at now?
This is pick 2.
Pick 2
Pick number
for you.
6
Yeah,
overall.
pick 6 overall,
Sixth pick
yeah.
overall.
6th pick for overall in the 2024 Planeswalker draft of the Command Zone. I'm going to take Oko, Thief of Crown.
Oko, yeah.
And this is that sorcery thing you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Beast Within.
So Oko comes down and turns
Beast Within
something,
plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
blows something up, basically, into an elk.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better than that.
Oh, yeah.
even. So if you get their commander, right? Because
Yeah.
they have a little bit more trouble than if you Beast Within it. So, yeah. And like we were talking about earlier, it's a fine usage of 3 mana. We've talked about this recently, how we've been shying away. What's the white card that makes an elephant?
Generous Gift.
Generous.
We've been shying away from getting Generous Gift, and I know that hits more permanent types, but it's at 3 mana, and we've been moving down the mana curve. But I think Oko, because of that fact of but sometimes it does stick around. And yeah, it probably dies because you can, you're threatening to do that again. But you nail their you nail their commander.
Yeah.
And a lot of decks are just off.
Yeah.
And they're like, I got to figure out a sack outlet or some kind of situation. Yeah. And that's kind of mean.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's why I don't have number 1. A lot of people, it's the most popular, I think, on EDH Rec.
Yeah.
But still undoubtedly powerful.
Yeah, the fact that you can use this in playgroups that are playing must answer commanders like Miram, and when they come down, you're like, no.
Yeah.
You need a puzzle to unlock your commander.
Yep.
You will figure something else out first.
Yep.
So it's please attack me so I can block.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just swinging it in recklessly, and
Yeah,
everyone's
please.
like, get out of the way.
And everyone's like, no. You leave that dragon as an elk.
Wow. Now that we're 2 picks in, though, my draft has just gone completely off the rails.
I know.
I don't know what I'm going to pick next. I'm looking at both my pages here for all my selections, but it'll be interesting to see what comes up next for me.
We are going to get to our final 3 picks of the draft, but first, we're going to hear a few words from our sponsors.
Hail, fighters! I am Astor, bearer of blades. Among my collection of sharpened steel is an equipment so fearsome and powerful, I dare never use it again. My barber's scissors. Sadly, in my untrained hands, they made a gruesome mess of my warriors' manes. What have you done? So now, when my crew could use a trim, we steer our vehicles straight to SUPERCUTS, the smartest place out there to get a solid cut. They delivered almost 22 million cuts last year alone, scoring an average rating of over 4.8 out of 5 stars. My sleek SUPERCUTS hairdo keeps me feeling fresh and looking sharp. As sharp, I dare say, as the kukri blades with which I became the Butcher of Bogarden. Oh, that's so sharp. So if you want to enter the battlefield looking like $1 million, make the smart choice and head into your local SUPERCUTS. For a real smart hair experience, simply walk into SUPERCUTS or visit supercuts.com to find the salon nearest you. SUPERCUTS, real smart hair.
Man, these MagicCons really keep us on the go, huh?
Definitely. We've had Philly, Minneapolis, Vegas, Chicago, even Barcelona, and of course Amsterdam pretty soon.
But you know what comes with us every time?
Oh yeah, of course I know. It's the Cube of Consequence!
No, that wasn't until Minneapolis. I was talking about our RAYCON wireless earbuds.
Oh yeah, of course. I take my Raycons everywhere. With their 8 hours of playtime and 32-hour battery life, they're perfect for a long plane ride.
Or to listen to music while exploring a new city. With their optimized gel tips, they fit so comfortably, I almost forget I'm wearing them.
And their noise isolation is perfect if you want to tune out the traffic and tourist chatter.
Or use awareness mode if you want to take it all in and not get hit by a car.
The best part is, the audio quality is top tier, but they're just half the price of other premium brands. So if I misplace them on a trip, I don't have to worry too much about buying another pair.
So when you're planning your next big trip or even just a busy day, don't forget the most important thing.
Yes, the Cube of Consequence!
Josh, we talked about this.
Right, yes, the Raycons.
Go to buyraycon.com/command today to get 20% off your Raycon order plus free shipping.
That's right, you'll get 20% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/command.
Again, buyraycon.com/command.
I think it might need more card draw.
Who are you talking to? Or is that just something you say?
Oh no, I'm on a call with Jimmy. We're building a Chatterfang deck.
Ooh, I just added Toski. That should help, right?
Whoa, the card just showed up.
Yeah, with ARCHIDEKT you can collaborate in real time from anywhere in the world.
Changes show up immediately. You don't even have to reload the page.
So it's perfect for brewing with a friend.
This is cool, but isn't Jimmy just upstairs?
Yeah, but I'm downstairs right now.
I ain't coming downstairs. ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command zone.
Welcome back, everybody. We are drafting the most powerful Planeswalkers in Commander. And we are on pick number 7 overall. It is Josh. We're beginning the third round, and it is Josh's first pick.
It's interesting because
third pick.
Yeah. I think I'm going to audible off my list a little bit here.
I've been audibling like crazy already, so.
I think mostly because I chose Oko as my last pick, and the next one I have on my depth chart is also kind of a mean card.
Ah, okay.
And I don't want to take 2 mean cards in a row because I usually don't do the mean thing with them.
Yeah.
So that's why, like Oko, I feel kind of bad when I hit their Corvold or whatever. Not Corvold.
Not Corvold, yeah. They just
Put
took a
that in a
17-minute turn. Yeah, please.
Yeah. That was a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. Sometimes you feel kind of bad because the person's just like, okay.
All right.
Okay.
I can't do anything because
Yeah.
my whole deck's built. So, okay, I'm going to skip the next 2 and I'm going to go to one I just personally like, but I probably don't think it needs to be... Whatever. It's Teferi, Master of Time.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
That was my number 3, actually.
Wow.
That I sort of skipped over.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of Planeswalkers probably more powerful, but I do like this card a lot. It's one of the few Planeswalkers I actually like to play just because of the fact
You can activate it multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels so good to do it. And again, when it does die, or if they like immediately try and get rid of it, you've gotten 2 activations. You feel like you got your money's worth, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 mana draw, 2 discard 2. Sometimes
Usually
you
phase
bounce,
something
4
out.
mana bounce or phase something, and then draw a discard. Yeah. There's a lot you can do there.
Yeah, it often makes it like, okay, you phase a thing, then you plus it, then you plus it again. You usually get 3 activations at a minimum. And often you get all 4 just because phasing the thing actually does protect it. But in the situation
Also,
where
instant
you can't,
speed phasing, which is like pretty cool in that minus.
I can't remember ever playing it where I'm like, this was a dud. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that this one is sort of uniquely powerful because it scales up with Commander. Like in 1v1, it didn't really hit as hard, but it was fine. But like in Commander, the fact that you can pay 4 and like hypothetically loot, like draw 4, discard 4, 4, 4, or, draw 3, discard 3, phase 1 thing out.
Yeah.
Usually means you're going to untap with it because it protects itself and just guarantees that you get your money's worth out of it.
Anytime somebody goes board wipe and then your follow-up play to their board wipe is this,
Blocker,
you feel so good because you're like, yeah. Everyone's
gonna
like,
do?
And you're like, it's going to have so much loyalty by the time you're able to get at
big.
it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that play pattern of like, oh, it's scary, scary, scary. Somebody answers with a board wipe, you're sweet. Teferi Master Time, and it's just like, oh, crap. It's not going to win you the game straight up, but it will have won you the game by the time you win that game.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. That's a powerful one.
Okay.
So we're at the 8th pick overall and Jimmy's 3rd pick.
Jimmy's third pick.
So this is a card that you can play as your commander, but I found that it is great in decks that don't need it as his commander and just care about artifacts. It is Daretti Scrap Savant. I like this card a lot because, again, it is a card that will just do things. Like Dak Fade, and it has a very similar ability. You can draw up to 2 cards and discard that many cards, which is great. And then plus is 2 there. And then the -2 is just get something wild out of your graveyard. Sack an artifact, return artifact to the battlefield.
That's the one where if your deck's set up to take advantage of it, you get so much value out of I swapped this 2 mana thing for this 9 mana thing, and it's like that feels.
And if it could be a combo piece, right? They might go Synth Lattice or whatever. It ends up being extremely punishing to the game. So I like Daretti quite a lot, and I think just being a 4 mana looter again is also very valuable.
First of all, I forgot to ask Jimmy, where did you have Teferi?
Oh, Teferi was down my list, probably like 8 or 9.
Okay. Rachel, where'd you have Daretti?
I didn't have Daretti.
Daretti was my 15th. I only went up to 15 because that's the most amount.
Yeah.
Daretti was just a little bit narrow for me. I don't tend to play that style of deck, so it's one that I can sort of skip on. But it is sick. Daretti's the kind of card when it comes down, you're like, nice.
Yeah. Or like, oh, game's over.
Yeah. You do cool stuff. Daretti comes down, you're like, oh crap, what's in your graveyard? Are we dead?
Here it comes.
It's one of the few welder effects that happens the moment.
Because Goblin Welder is great, but people always try and kill it, especially because they can swap out other stuff. But like now we have like Portal to Phyrexia. We have so many huge, impactful things.
God, getting back Portal.
Yeah, exactly.
Brutal. Then sack it, get it back.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're playing Daretti, you're probably playing Goblin Welder.
Probably.
So there's a turn where you can literally Daretti, get Phyrexian Portal back and then weld it back and get it back, right? There's a lot of different
Or you have a
things you can
KCI or something that allows you to sack an
There's
artifact. So you
tons
go,
of-
I'm going to
now-
sack this just to get it back to get that trigger.
Yeah, now they have a ton of 1 in a red, sack an artifact or discard a card, draw 2 cards, right? There's a lot of those that exist now as well.
Yeah, so you just put a card in there to get
Yeah, there's
back.
just tons of stuff you can do.
Yep.
So I like Duretti a lot. It definitely is my play style. Like getting a huge scary thing out of the graveyard at instant sorcery speed is my style for sure.
I was going to say, if you look at our list so far, obviously there's 2 more rounds to go, but I've taken 2 blue cards and a Simic card.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jimmy, you've taken 2 cards with red, a colorless, and a...
That's it.
No,
Yeah.
you got a blue,
Yeah.
you got a blue
Red
pip in there.
card. Yeah.
And then what does Rachel have?
I have
Rachel
white and
has,
black.
Yep.
Yeah.
A white card and a black card. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are following our branding.
Yep, 100%.
Sometimes you just like something.
That's true. And sometimes you're just right, like me. So.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have perfect decisions every
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
All right, well, we'll see what Rachel takes here with the 9th and the
I'm
final
looking
pick of
at
the third
so
round.
many white planeswalkers on my list right now. It's just a list of planeswalkers.
Incredible.
I do have 2 white planeswalkers on my list, but I think the problem with this draft pod is somebody in here is going to take them just a little
know.
higher than I will.
Yeah.
Well, now that I think this has happened in a lot of them, after you're out of the first 3 rounds, it just becomes like you get whatever you want.
Yeah.
But much more free for all at that point.
This is a tricky pick because I do think there's a couple here that I do really like to play, but I want to talk about it, so I'm gonna pick it.
Okay.
I'm picking Comet Stellar Pup.
Oh, Comet.
Yeah. I feel like we
So,
should talk about this card.
We need to talk about it because look at Comet's face. Look at Comet's cutie pie little face. It's on the screen right now. Look into his little face. He is a nightmare to play against.
4
This
mana,
card is
5 loyalty planeswalker.
So powerful.
Roll it for 0. Roll a 6-sided die. We should read these out.
Yeah.
Because they're all very impactful. I didn't realize how good this card was until
All right.
I really read it again.
So Comet has 1 activated ability. It's 0, roll a 6-sided die. If it's a 1 or a 2, you plus 2, then you create 2 squirrels.
So it goes up to 7.
And they have haste, so it immediately goes to 7. If you roll a 3, then you -1 and return a card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If you hit a 4 or a 5, it deals damage equal to the number of loyalty counters on him to a creature or a player, and then -2. If you roll a 6, you +1, and then you may activate Comet Stellar Pup's loyalty ability 2 more times this turn.
So you have a 1 in 6 chance of getting to go again, and then you have a 2 in 6 chance of getting to go again, and then you have another, right? So the odds are actually not that bad.
I played against a Comet where my opponent rolled a 6, and then
Then the game's over, right?
the game's over because they like so now
got 3
their
more rolls.
planeswalker is at
9.
like it goes immediately to
Yeah,
7,
7.
and then you roll and you're
7.
like
You got 3
now
more
I'm
rolls.
up to this, I kill that and I do 3
Get
more
this
rolls.
back.
I get
Make-
4 squirrels, I
Yeah.
deal 12 damage, and that is the turn they played it.
I should like this one because it's related to
It's-
craps.
It's such a high roll planeswalker, and until you've played across from it, you have no idea how powerful this card is.
Yeah.
If you're playing Boros, just try it because it's wild what this card can do.
This my eyes roll back in my head as I read the card, and I also, I don't like cards where I can't predict what they're gonna do.
Right, right.
So yeah, that's the reason I've never really thought about playing this card is just because
Even
under what circumstances do I want to play it? Because if I want the tokens, I don't know that I'm going to get them. If I want the recursion, I don't know that I'm going to get it.
So-
that's why I don't like it. But it's undoubtedly to my detriment when somebody plays it and just whatever, and then goes off like you said, because you're like, okay. It
Couldn't
doesn't
do
matter
anything
because
about
you're just
that.
doing all of it.
You
Yeah.
do have a 1/3 chance to make 2 squirrels, right? This is
Yeah.
a 4 mana planeswalker. So you have a 1/3 chance to just do 2/3 of an Elspeth activation, right?
And then it gets up to 7.
And then it goes to
Well,
7.
are you pitching that to me as a plus side? I have a 1/3 chance to know what it's going to do. That's not knowing what it's going to
but
do.
that's that people think about that one as the worst one,
Right.
And you're like, that's incredible. And then the damage one, remove a thing,
Maybe.
is a 1/3 chance.
Yeah, but that's the
But
problem.
all of those are good things.
But they're not always the thing you want to spend your turn doing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I need to remove that. That's going to kill me. This doesn't solve that problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not saying this is maybe a problem with how I play the game, but that's in my head. How can I play this card when it doesn't? I don't know what it's
there's
going
no
to do.
guarantees,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, all those things are good.
Well,
but-
classic blue, right?
Right. I
You
mean,
need a
this is a blunt force instrument,
Yeah.
right? This isn't a scalpel. This
Yeah.
is a hammer.
Yeah.
Sometimes a hammer with squirrels on it.
And you're like, it also has the benefit of people not knowing that it's crazy busted.
Yeah.
Right.
Is the other thing, because look at his little face.
Yeah, it's just so
and he's
cute.
got a galaxy foil, and then you anyway. Comet's really powerful. You should try playing it. If you're okay with a little bit of chaos in your life.
Okay.
It's funny. I do like gambling.
Yeah.
When you do play Boros, which is a gamble already, you can play Comet. You know. All right, Rachel, you do get 2 picks in a
do
row now
get
because we're going
2
into round 4.
Yep. This is round 4, and
The
this
10th overall pick.
Yeah.
This was a tricky pick for me, but I think I'm going to have a hard time passing on Grist.
Grist, the Hunger Tide.
Yeah, Grist is a 3-mana planeswalker, but it's a creature everywhere else. Right now, it's a creature.
Oh, wait,
How can we even draft it?
We didn't ask. Jimmy, did you have a comment on your list?
Oh, yeah.
I did because I heard about it yesterday from Rachel, but I don't know where I would have put it.
I didn't have a comment on my list.
Because
Okay.
the moment Rachel
Yeah.
was like, have you heard of Comet? And I looked it up again, and I was like, I've now heard of Comet.
Yeah.
And I like what I'm seeing.
It's really big, and it's like a cube card and a
I'm sure it's an
commander,
amazing cube card,
Canadian
yeah.
Highlander card. Grist, though, rules. Grist is either a removal spell or it mills and makes a body. It's 3 mana, and its ultimate is only a -5.
You can also
and it's
tutor for it.
extremely powerful. It has all of the synergies with creatures, so it's a lot easier to put into creature decks.
Can you green some Zenith it out?
Yes.
Yeah, you can recur it too.
You can reanimate
Wow.
it. There's a lot that you can do with Grist that make it really, really powerful and very, very resilient.
Very cool.
And the thing I like about it is it fits well into creature strategies because it has a lot of the creature synergies as
Which
well.
is what Golgar is often doing, right?
Exactly,
Is like
yeah.
creature recursion from graveyard. Grist fits right into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grist would probably have been my 16th on my list. It was on the bubble for me. Did you have Grist on your list, Jimmy?
I do not have Grist on my list now.
I'm a believer in Grist. It's very powerful. People kind of tend to loop it. So
Yep.
Yeah.
and I think that gets around what we were talking about earlier, where you don't fear it dying because you're in a deck that's like, whatever, I'll just bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not the same as Elspeth or something where you're like, if it dies, I don't have a lot of ways to use it again. Grist is like, whatever, it dies. I might sack it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does. It mills a card. It makes a body. I'll kill that planeswalker.
Yep.
It for
Does
some
a lot.
reason it hits planeswalkers. It's only 3 mana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good card.
That's mine. All right, Jimmy.
Oh,
pick
man.
4.
Okay, we are in the tough ones now. I'm going to go with a Planeswalker I spoke a little bit about earlier in terms of this comes down and very often no one kills it. It is Kiora Behemoth
Yep.
Beckoner.
Great one. Yeah.
So this is, again, from the War of the Spark series. It has the activate or the static ability of whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card, which is great. But more importantly, I love this ability. You can -1 it, untap target permanent. And it comes in with 7 loyalty.
Yeah.
So this comes in on 3. You untap something big with it, or a mana rock or whatever, even just a land. Goes down to 6. Maybe you cast something with that new mana, whatever it is. No one's looking at Kiora and going, oh no, if we don't get rid of that, it's going to
Has no other abilities.
Yeah, and they're just kind of
It's
like,
on the
no
tin.
ultimate, yeah.
So that's what it's doing.
so it basically feels like a Kiora's follower and like a Garrick's Uprising type effect.
Yeah.
Or whatever those.
Which
you know,
are
the ones-
great.
Yeah, which are both of them are great. And I so often, even if I'm playing against a Kiora and you bring it out, I'm not going to go like, I need to kill that. Because I'm like, great. I just imagine that's a Kiora's follower. But you can do this turn that comes down, which is what's awesome about it.
Yeah. It also usually goes in decks with a bunch of huge things, so you're like,
exactly.
I can't
You
hit
can-
it. It's behind all those 4/4s.
Yeah, you're going to draw stuff. Early game, it helps ramp you up. Late game, it just gives you tons of value when you're able to cast this and a 4-drop or a card with 4 power. Yeah.
Where'd you have that on your list, Rachel?
Mine is 11th? Nope, bad math. 13th.
13th? I had Kura's follower as 7 for me.
Kura's follower?
Right after,
Yeah.
sorry,
Kura-
Kura Behemoth Beckoner.
Beckoner,
Kura's follower, like he kept saying,
Yeah.
is how I think of it in my head.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really powerful.
And there's also the play pattern. You just draw it a little bit later and you play it, minus it, then play a creature that
creature,
triggers
yeah.
it, draw your card. Yeah, then you're mostly fine in that scenario with like, I have a blocker for it, it's probably not going to die, but if it did, I drew a card off it, I'm cool.
And later on, you're
And
going
it
to have
represents
bigger
ramp.
and scarier
Yeah.
things to untap with it, too.
We're always talking about ramp and card draw. What does this card do? It ramps you and it draws cards. Yeah.
In green and blue, it's perfect.
This
Yeah.
one feels the most like an enchantment type planeswalker.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. Because when it comes down, people don't.
They just don't kill it.
Yeah.
They just don't see the need to. 'Cause
Yeah,
they-
there's no urgency to it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to make another 3 1/1s or
Yeah.
wipe the board.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to destroy any of my stuff with that thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Josh, you got 2 in a row here. End of round 4. What an exciting time to be you.
What pick number are we on here?
This
four.
is...
Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
So it's your 4th and 5th.
Yes, this will be 12.
12,
3, 6,
13?
9, 12. Yeah, pick number 12.
Okay. I have to pick this card. I can't believe it's going so late.
I know.
I know what it is.
It's Narset, Part of Veils.
Yeah.
That's the mean card from last round that I didn't want to take again.
Yeah, because this plus a wheel means everyone keeps one card in their
One card in their hand. Yeah, but even if you don't do the wheel thing, I think people think of this as a wheel card, which is like,
It's just powerful.
Yeah, exactly. This is just a good card to play, and just your opponents are like, crap. Because everyone's drawing cards in Commander games and trying to draw extra cards in Commander games.
especially
And you
these
just
days.
turn that stuff off for them, even if you're not going to do the mean thing of like, well, I'll force you to draw cards and discard your hand and you don't draw any. Yeah. So it just is very powerful, and then does have a relevant ability that just does draw you a card. So even in the sorcery scenario where you play it, you minus it, you get another card to replace this card.
Yeah.
And now you cramp them a little bit in some ways, and they have to get at it. And you're like, that's the worst case scenario for this card, right? They do manage to kill it. And maybe instead of drawing some cards or doing some value plays, they had to make some different plays to get at it. But at the same time, you're fine. 3 mana, I replaced it. It was annoying to you. That's not the worst.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they can't get rid of it, and it just is like, ah. And now if you're ahead in a game, they can't even go searching for answers that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Very
Yeah.
good. Very
Every time
powerful.
somebody else plays it against me, of course, against me, it's like the best card that's ever been played because all I want to do is draw cards, and I'm just like,
And you
oh,
have no
come on.
creatures to
Yeah,
hit it.
sorry. See you later, buddy. Yeah, I feel you there.
No, I'm not even going to minus it. He won't be able to.
That's probably the big reason I didn't take it last round, because I actually don't like it, because it's usually used against me.
Yeah.
But I have to acknowledge its power.
Yeah, it was one of those cards where I was like, well, if this doesn't get picked, we're going to have to talk about it.
Where did you two have it on your list?
So I didn't have it on my list, but not because it isn't powerful. It's one of the, like, if we're picking cards that we're going to play, and these are the only Planeswalkers in our collection, I want to pick cards that I play and like to play, and I put in decks.
Yeah.
And Narset isn't in any of my decks.
Mine was like about 10 or 11, I would say. It was down there.
I picked
great.
3 mono blue cards, so we know what my collection looks
True
like.
to your style. Yeah. I think I've gotten every
You are
color
what you
except
are,
for
okay?
white. So
Yeah, what do I have? I'm missing blue.
you're Mardu right now, I think.
Yeah, no, I have green.
Oh, you have green now with Grist. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the
'cause
only
I'm
one,
thinking
blue
all
is the
blue
only one I
cards.
don't
Yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah.
I
I'm
would have
missing
taken.
white.
I would have taken deck.
Well, there's a white one that's left that maybe she'll leave to you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right.
Well, there's a couple of white ones, but
There's a few.
There's
good
one I
white
would
ones.
assume we all have on
There's
our
a couple
on our
good
board.
white ones. All right, Josh, your final pick. This
Oh,
is
right.
round 5.
I get 2 in a row here.
Yep. You get
Do I
to
take
clean
this
'em
white
up.
card?
I don't know.
Is there another mono blue one you can do?
Do I take a card that doesn't have blue in it? I don't have another mono blue one on my list.
Lame.
There's definitely 2 more with blue.
Do it.
But I've got blue covered. Like my collection, that I can't have. These are the only Planeswalkers I can ever have. It's got plenty of blue
You've got
Planeswalkers.
blue
Yeah.
Planeswalker.
You've got blue for days.
So maybe I don't need those other 2. I think I'm gonna take the white card. I'm gonna take the Wandering Emperor.
Yeah,
Okay.
very good.
Yeah.
This card's sweet.
Oh yeah, it's very, very good. The flash on it is the difference.
Flash
maker
gets
here.
rid of a thing, makes dudes. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, again, in that sorcery scenario, even though it's got flash, in that scenario where you say, okay, I only get what I get with it sort of the first time it's used and then it dies somehow. This is flash in, kill something,
Get something else.
get it.
And usually, get a second activation out of it.
And Commander's a little bit tougher because if I have to flash in to kill Jimmy's thing and there's 2 more players that act after him before I go, it might be dead.
Yeah.
But even that scenario is not that bad because it has flash.
Yep.
So it was like, I at least, and it has to kill a tapped creature, right? So at least I knew that thing was coming at me.
Yeah.
Like, and if Jimmy doesn't attack me, attack someone else, then I get to hold it, maybe do a different thing. I like to play that way, obviously. Have a lot of options at instant speed. So like, I could kill it, but I'm not going to do that unless it attacks me. And it didn't. I'll do a different thing. And so that allows me to play that play style.
Okay.
For sure. I like how light on your feet this card makes you, where you're like, you can hold up your counter spells, you can hold up all that interaction. This protects you, sort of like a pseudo fog. But it doesn't commit you to just tapping out for a Planeswalker and passing.
I hate that feeling. I don't feel safe when I do. Well, I don't feel safe when I'm tapped out, period. But like,
Yeah.
Where did you all have it on your list?
It's not on my list.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have it 7th. That was the one I was deciding between it and Grist, but I was like, I do have a lot of white Planeswalkers already with removal on them.
Okay, well now I'm Azorius and
there you go.
and Simic, which is very on brand.
growth.
Yeah. Good job. You did it. You spread your
we
wings.
are, like I said.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
What is the ult on this Wandering Emperor? No, it's just the exile target tapped creature.
tapped
Make a boy, and then it gives something first strike.
Yeah.
I was forgetting the plus.
I think I didn't put it on my list because I see this as much more of a 1v1 card instead of a multiplayer one. I would say the Eternal Wanderer is much more of a multiplayer card because it's got that board wipe on it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not on my list either. I'm not really much of a white player, I don't think. Even though I do have a mono white deck.
Yeah, I considered
the Eternal Wanderer.
Yeah, Eternal Wanderer. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But it's 6 mana. I don't think as impactful as like Elspeth.
Yeah.
I've seen that card hit the board and do very little.
Shockingly, that is also on my list. That one's 12.
I thought about it. It's probably was like my 17th, 18th.
I definitely don't need it and Elspeth.
No,
I think.
no.
It's one or the other here. All
Okay.
right, Jimmy, this is your final pick.
Okay, so this is actually really high on my list, and I didn't pick it because I don't think anyone else has it on their list.
Wow. What number was it on your list? If you know?
Technically, like 2 or 3.
Wow.
It is Ugin the Ineffable.
Oh, that's a good one.
It was like it was on the bubble for me.
Yeah, so this just says colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, which sometimes means play Ugin, dump your hand out. It also is able to -3 destroy a permanent that's 1 or more colors. So this is also colorless removal for enchantments, colored artifacts, and creatures. So much stuff on the table. The +1 is just okay, but I think for the ability for this, the fact that this can save you in 1 turn when you play it, like 8 mana, 6 mana, 4 mana is really, really powerful. And if it sticks around, you can just have really impactful turns. You do have to kind of build into it, but if you've got a lot of mana rocks in your deck and Ugin's there as well, you could just have a nuts turn with this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's also part of like KCI, Scrap Trawler combo stuff because even if you tap out for it, a lot of times you're like, sack this, get some mana,
Now you're
play
gonna
this
roll
for
it.
free.
Yeah.
Which is the thing I got back from Scrap Trawler. And like, definitely when Ugin the Ineffable hits the table in certain decks, you're like, oh, we might be dead.
Yeah.
Not from any of its abilities except for that
just for that
cost reduction.
Because a lot of times they'll
it's
say
a big turn,
down to
yeah.
1, but this just says just 2 less to cast, so it could be 0 for a lot of stuff. And you can do the thing where you play a rock, tap it, play something else bigger, tap it, right? Like
Sack it, get it back.
Yeah.
Get the mana vault back and play tap it.
Yeah. So I like that a lot about Ugin. And that's why he's my last pick of the draft. I almost picked a mono red Planeswalker, but I decided against it.
You already have one?
I have a lot.
What was the mono red Planeswalker?
It would have been Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Yeah.
I think Ugin was probably my like 17th or 18th.
Yeah, Ugin was one of those where I was just like, it's a little bit too narrow and doesn't quite fit into my playstyle, but it's so powerful in the decks that it's good in.
It's very powerful.
All right.
You are now choosing
The final.
the 15th pick.
Planeswalker.
The last one.
Yeah.
This is tricky. I mean, I think there's a lot that could really go on this list. I also have Chandra, Torch of Defiance on my list. But I think I can't let this draft go without a Minsc and Boo on it.
Ooh, Timeless Heroes.
Yeah, Minsc and Boo, Timeless Heroes. This is the one that makes the hamster when it enters the battlefield, and on your upkeep, it puts counters on things with trample and haste, and then you can sack creatures to deal damage and to draw cards if it's a hamster. It's
On your upkeep, you may create Boo if it's not there, right?
Yeah.
It's also on ETB.
Yeah.
It comes in, makes it, and if Boo had
And
died,
then
it comes
back. Yeah, and then the +1 is put.
It comes back whether he's there or not. But
Yeah.
And then you can also like abuse that by
Yeah.
Just keep
And you can
making
fling it.
hamsters, and you could The big thing is this draws cards, this deals damage. It makes repeatable trample, hasty 4/4s. Every time I've played Minsc and Boo in 1v1, obviously it's very powerful, but in Commander, it's a reliable engine that your opponents do have to answer.
Yeah.
Because it's just every other turn you draw 4 cards and kill a thing. It's pretty absurd, and you get to make a hamster over and over and over again. Come on.
Come on. You got dogs, you got hamsters.
Yeah. I also just like it in decks in commander decks that have, like, if your commander has trample or haste.
Yeah.
This is just a way to keep putting counters on it, and you make a 1/1 that you can jump block with.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like this card.
All right. Wow. That was 5 rounds of a very interesting draft.
Is that how you guys thought that would go?
No. Yeah, not really, actually.
I mean, there's so many cards that are still unchosen, right?
Yeah.
There's some notable ones that are popular.
There's a lot of notable, I would say. There's probably some people out there screaming, going like, how could you not mention Jace the Mind Sculptor?
Yeah.
Or,
I think it's Ashiok Dreamrender.
Yeah, Ashiok is a big one for sure.
Most powerful one that wasn't mentioned, I think, is Ashiok.
Yeah, and I think Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Those are the two that are sort of the most played. People use them as enchantments mostly, but they're very powerful enchantments.
Some people probably say Soren Markov, the one that takes the life total down to 10.
That's a very powerful one.
Teferi Time Raveler is one of the other Teferis.
Yeah, but I would say Saheeli and Ashiok are the two that like you see a lot.
Yeah.
Like, because they can kind of go in a lot of different kinds of decks too. I mean, obviously, Saheeli, you want to be making tokens and casting certain types of spells, but it's pretty broad.
But Ashiok is just powerful.
And Ashiok just shuts off what a lot of people want to do.
Yeah.
And it's just great repeatable graveyard hate.
Yep.
When that hits the battlefield and you're playing a graveyard deck, you're like,
It's
okay,
over. Yeah,
well,
bye-bye.
I'm not going to be able to do anything for like 5 turns.
Yeah.
Because it's not just Bajuka Bog and you can rebuild. It's exile now, exile again.
Well, and I would also say about Ashiok that you can often get the table to agree that they don't need to worry about it because you play it and you're like, this deck hates it. These other 2 decks don't care about it.
Yeah.
And so the other 2 decks are like, I'm happy to have that around because it just stops that player.
Yeah.
So then you don't have that problem where all 3 are trying to kill it. Now, the anti-tutoring or anti-searching might get on people's nerves, but a lot of times they're fine, right? Like they're like, I'll let it live for a few turns because it basically means that,
the graveyard player is done for.
Cannot rebuild,
this person just cannot win. So it took one player out of the equation. So I think that's why Ashiok's like so powerful.
Would that be your honorable mention if you had to choose between the two?
Well, I just wanted to mention those 2 because I do know, and again, according to EDH Rec, those are like
they're high up
2 of the top 5 most powerful. So when you say people screaming at their, what do they scream at? Their monitors, their radios,
or
their
maybe
phones?
just internally.
Wherever you're watching this?
They're going, how could they have missed
Screaming
my
within
favorite
the vaults of their
Planeswalker?
minds.
Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, I think those are 2 cards they probably would, be screaming about.
Yep.
Yeah, if we like to do one more round of picks, though, like one that we're saddest to not have on our list, I think is kind of a fun thing to go through. If we were going to do one more round.
What'd you have left, Rachel, that was like, you were choosing between on that last round or that's,
We talked about Chandra Torch of Defiance, and I like that one a lot. One I wanted to mention that I think every time, I've never played it, but every time it comes down across from me, I'm like, this card is absurd, is Domri, Anarch of Bolas.
Oh, Domri.
The 3-mana Domri that is an anthem. It gives your creatures +1/+0. It makes red or green mana, and it makes your creature uncounterable, and it fights something.
So it's removal plus
ramp plus an anthem.
Yeah.
The biggest issue with Domri is finding a slot for a Planeswalker in clearly a very creature-heavy deck.
Yeah.
But it does it all. It's 3 mana, and again, it's not one of those ones that is super easy to pick off.
Yeah, I like that. You also have Tezzeret the Seeker right next to that on your sheet, and that's also it's a tutor.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly super powerful.
Really powerful.
Yeah.
What do you have, Jimmy, as an honorable mention?
I have Renin 6. This is just a very powerful card. Red and 2 mana for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. And if you're in lands deck, it's amazing. If you are just trying to destroy a 1 damage creature, it's very good. And the fact that you can just play it for 2, I think, is what makes it so powerful. It comes down really cheap. You can do other stuff that same turn. A lot of these Planeswalkers we talked about, I was like 6 mana Planeswalker, 4 mana Planeswalker. That can consume your whole turn. Red and 6 like smooths out your draws to return your fetch land, and also can just destroy stuff left and right.
Yeah. One more pick, Josh? Another blue one?
I think it would be Vivian, Champion of the Wild.
Oh, nice.
Oh, Vivian.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it lets you cast things at flash speed, so I like that. And then it draws you cards, and it's a good play early if it's clear, or even late, because sometimes you go, play it, activate it, find a creature, and then just sit there with the mana open and be like, well, if you attack me, I can flash into anything.
Oh, there's also the Mirari's Wake one, not Vivian, the other green.
Nissa who shakes the world.
Nissa who shakes the world. I think probably would deserve a good honorable mention there.
I had both of those on my top 15. Because if you untap with Nissa who shakes the world, you probably win because it doubled your mana.
Yeah. Or you're just so far ahead at that point.
I don't love Nissa who shakes the world over just like the 5 mana flash one. Because again, it's just free to remove. People can attack it. It's clearly very scary. I would rather just play it on.
You make a little 3/3.
I'd rather. It's your land.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, I would rather play an enchantment.
The upside of it is very high, but the downside is lower because, the downside is higher.
Yeah.
Because unlike say like Oko, you don't get much out of it unless you do untap with it. But you get kind of a lot out of it when you do untap with it. So it's like, yeah, what's your appetite for high variance, which mine is not that high.
Yeah. There's probably a world as well where we should mention Invasion of New Phyrexia. It's a battle that flips into a Planeswalker, but on its core, it's just an X white blue to make X 2/2 white knight vigilant creatures.
Yeah.
Like we've seen X and a white, like whatever, to make a bunch of 1/1s. But this makes 2/2s with vigilance.
Yeah.
And just that by itself is pretty good. If you ever do manage to flip it to the Planeswalker side, it becomes a Planeswalker. I think you play Invasion as just that side of it, and Gravy, sometimes you get the Planeswalker side. But that to me, this card I think will make splashes later on down the road.
Yeah, I've always found
really good
I've
range.
always found the tension of it to be difficult. Like it reads really well, but in reality, if X is very high, then you have a lot of 2/2s, which means I don't want to be attacking that battle. I need to kill people with my big board because I'm not going to be allowed to
don't
keep
have a
that
ton
for
of time
very
with
long.
all your 2/2s,
And if X is very low, I played this early, it's not very efficient because if you pay 4 mana, get 2 2/2s, that's not what you want to be doing in Commander. And so, yeah, I found that card to be more difficult to play than I thought. When I had it in hand, it was just hard to find a spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, X and 2 make X 2/2s can be good, but I'd love it at instant speed. And, normally I just don't flip it when I cast
Who wouldn't
for a
love
lot.
it at instant speed?
It'd be broken, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't think it could flip into a Planeswalker then. But yeah, I've found it to be, like I said, just more difficult to play than I thought.
Well, before we go, let's go through the Planeswalkers that we wound up with in our draft. And
So everyone can judge us.
yeah, so we can just put a button on it. Jimmy, what are the 5 Planeswalkers in your stable?
So I've got both Ugin the Spirit Dragon and Ugin the Ineffable. I have a Dak Faden, a Doretti Scrap Savant, and Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. I think if I was have to build a lot of decks, this gives me a lot of options to go a bunch of different ways here.
Yeah, solid lineup. I had Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Oko Thief of Crowns, Teferi Master of Time, Narset Parter of Veils, and the Wandering Emperor. I don't have red or black.
Oh.
Yeah. That's a nice set of control Planeswalkers. They're all doing, that's the gamut, right?
Controlling, yeah.
They're very me.
Yeah. I wound up with Liliana Dreadhorde, General Comet Stellar Pup, Elspeth Sun's Champion, Grist the Hunger Tide, and Minsk and Boo. Something after the comma. Timeless Heroes.
Timeless Heroes. Because they keep coming back.
That's true. The hamster does not say die.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I think, I don't think mine are particularly aggressive Planeswalkers, with the exception of Minsk and Boo. I think
Sometimes Comet.
Yeah. Comet depends on his mood. He's
Yeah.
a lab, you can't really expect much out of him.
Yeah.
But I think that it's interesting that a lot of the Planeswalkers I was leaning toward are the board wipe ones, where it leaves a little treat behind.
Yeah, I'm more of the occasionally going in a little more narrow with Ugin and Doretti, but overall just solid value to get stuff out. And for me, it seems like I'm covering a larger play style group, because I'd say Kiora Behemoth Beckoner is very different than Doretti Scrap Savant in terms of what you can do with the cards.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you do have a couple that have sort of to do with their artifacts, though, which I think probably tells us what our preclusions are or whatever.
Ugin, Dak, and Doretti are all artifact based.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the more fascinating things about doing these drafts. And at this point, it's maybe just more reinforcement than new information, but it really does bring in a sharp focus, what kind of player each person is. Because we just continuously end up with our picks sort of leaning towards exactly what everybody knows out there that we are, because we're not, it's not like we're faking it. That is what we are. Yeah. And that's the great thing about Magic is it can encompass all these different play styles and different sort of individuality of how you like to go about gaming. And all the strategies are also, it's not I lose to Rachel all the time. I play nothing like her.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about the game is that, all these strategies are viable and they are all, pretty much balanced and equal. So, I mean,
very cool.
so Magic is awesome. That's the moral.
Yeah, that's the moral.
To the listeners, what kind of player are you? What would your first pick Planeswalker be? Were you screaming about Narset in round 3? Where is she?
Yeah, that's Cassius.
I always took her out of guilt. I was because I heard
Yeah.
Important. You can hear him in the camera.
Yeah. Is there a winner to the draft? Does even crowning a winner make sense with this kind of thing? Let us know.
It's fun. You can just say who you think won the draft. Yeah, it's fun.
And also, what should
It really just
drop
identifies
next.
whether you're a control player or an aggro player.
Yeah.
But still.
Did we miss any planeswalkers that you think we should have snapped up? Were you like Valky, God of Lies?
Yeah, Tybalt.
I think like the Tybalt side is sweet. Let us know. And yeah, if you have any ideas for future drafts, let us know. We're going to put all of that to a vote to our patrons. So if you want to be involved in selecting that, join our Patreon.
Patreon.com. Yep. Yeah, he beat me to it.
Patreon.
I was like,
It's down here.
Of course.
It's
Supporting our channel is the way to go.
Almighty.
At patreon.com/command. I did it. I did it. You can also go to cardkingdom.com/command. Card Kingdom is our sponsor for the show. By supporting Card Kingdom, you also support the content that we create here because we're going to need to pick up some new Planeswalkers. Maybe it's time for me to finally buy a Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
Yeah.
But you know what? I want a beat up, not mint version of it so I can get the best deal because I just want to test it out.
expensive anymore?
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
I feel like the heyday of like $50
The heyday
is way over.
It's definitely not that.
way over.
$10. It's worth $10.
Yeah,
it's worth $10.
But if I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to go to cardkingdom.com/command. Maybe I'll send in some of my old cards to their buy list so that I can get some value to get that Jace without having to spend a single dime. And that's going to be an amazing way to do it. So cardkingdom.com/command, the place that we go to get all of our cards in one single convenient package to our doorstep so we can build the decks that we want and finally put some more Planeswalkers in there and see if they get deleted off the board the moment they get played.
And of course, once you get the cards from Card Kingdom, make sure you go to ultrapro.com/command. That is the game accessories brand that we trust our own cards to here at the Command Zone. They make awesome deck boxes, sleeves, dice, playmats. You can get wall scrolls. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff. Binders.
Get the Planeswalker dice for your.
Oh,
for
yeah.
They've
They have
got
little
like
plus
loyalty.
twos.
Yeah, the loyalty dice are really sweet.
numbers.
So cool.
Yeah. So again, ultrapro.com/command. And they have all kinds of deals all the time, like Rachel said earlier, flash sales, things like that. It is really worth just checking, every week or every couple of weeks or signing up for their newsletter just to be aware of the sales.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Before we go, we want to say a big thank you here to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. Thank you to Damon Lentz, Eric Lem, Megan Yip, Gaurav Galati, Jordan Pridgeon, Jamie Block, Arthur Meadowcroft, Manson Lung, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Sam Waldo, Evan Limburger, Katie Cole, and Mitch Trafford. And of course, to these two guys
Oh, and to this lady next to us as well.
for drafting Planeswalkers
And to
today.
you for
We're all
watching.
right.
For
You guys are awesome.
listening.
Yeah,
We're
you
all
all
right.
rock.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. With one final paper toss, we say goodbye and peace. Well, that was cool.
I threw them all in my face, directly into my own face.
Amazing.
It's a party.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.